Hello? Anyone home? It's Jules. Hi. You hungry? Okay, you need anything in here? You got blankets, you're okay? Yeah, come on up to the truck, brother. We have hot chocolate and sandwiches. Hi, guys. There you go, baby. He'll get you a sandwich. Hold on.
As soon as I'm done with this, I'll give you the tarp.
We have.
Yeah, we have two. She's got one coming.
Yes.
I forgot your name.
Oh, there's a marshmallow in it. I love it.
Yeah.
Eileen?
Who needs a sandwich?
According to the Farmer's Almanac, the first frost in Spokane occurs the first week of October, and the first snow by October the 27th. This year, frigid temperatures and snow arrived early, Friday the 23rd to be exact. But the arrival of winter weather didn't prevent a police sweep of homeless camps in Glover Field.
Sweet team, they're kicking us out. Yep.
48-hour notices were posted, and on Wednesday the 28th, residents were forced to gather their belongings in the snow and frigid temperatures and to move on with nowhere to go.
Yeah, apparently they had a bunch of beds and shit for us, which apparently which we know they don't. Like, what, did we do something wrong like last night? Like,
so there's the reason why we're here is there's all the shelters. Right, as of last night, yeah, there's room for you guys.
what time did they get room? Because like we called all the shelters. Me and my girlfriend called all the shelters. They told us they had no beds.
What time did you call them?
Like we called around like 7, and like they said nobody had beds.
They reported us last night they had space.
Did they?
They did, yeah. How long is it going to take you to pack your stuff and go?
It shouldn't be too much longer. I'm sorry if I'm having anxiety. I have fear of police. There's a lot of you guys.
There's only 3 of us.
I'm schizophrenic, so like everything like overdoes what I'm seeing is like twice what you guys know is actually here.
Is there any couple beds open anywhere?
Yeah.
Are there?
There's several places that take households.
Might be worth looking into.
Don't really got a choice, it looks like.
Instead of filming me, why don't you start packing your stuff?
We're waiting for him to get his pen on there. I was told to do this by a friend of mine because they're trying to make it to where during the cold months when there's no, depending on what's going on, they're trying to get it so you guys stop harassing the homeless. And it's all my stuff's packed. Because we tried for a long time to look and there were no openings anywhere.
That's not true at all. You need to look hard enough. If you truly didn't like the homeless, you would do something about it.
With a known and counted homeless population of 1,559 people, based on the pre-COVID 2020 point-in-time count, Spokane only had 733 beds in October of 2020, and many of those were not low-barrier beds available to people in whatever condition they may find themselves, which is why they were camping in the first place. This annual lack of planning and preparation for winter weather predates COVID and has become an annual Greek homeless tragedy in our city, complete with individuals experiencing homelessness with nowhere to go, city planners late in responding, and a Greek chorus of homeless activists and service providers warning of the predictable consequences for inexcusable neglect. Spokane isn't the only city in the Pacific Northwest to find itself overwhelmed by surging homelessness on its streets. A recent article in the Oregonian featured a call by Multnomah County officials asking for the public's help in finding and opening additional space for those experiencing homelessness on the streets of their community. And that leads us to the subject of this documentary, pop-up warming centers. When snow fell and temperatures plunged on the weekend of October 24th and 25th, without enough shelter space for people to get off the streets and out of the cold and wet, a local nonprofit that serves the homeless put out a plea for space to open a temporary or pop-up 24/7 warming shelter. Westminster Congregational Church in Spokane answered that plea and opened their facility as a temporary pop-up warming shelter for anyone experiencing homelessness with no place to go.
We got the call at noon that it was probably a go. We didn't actually get the approval until 4 and we opened at 5. But we prepared for opening this center. What we did was gathered together our clothing, gathered together our food resources, figuring out where we're missing and where the gaps are need to be filled. And we asked the community to fill those gaps. We had mattresses. We have 240 that were donated to us 2 years ago we've held on to, but traditionally you would use mats. And most churches and shelters have extra mats, so we were able to acquire mats from another local shelter who was willing to donate them. Finding the space is the hardest part, but once you've got the space, it's really just having enough volunteers to come in and sit with these folks through the next 5 days. A pop-up warming center is a warming center in a non-traditional building. It is emergency, so everything is done minimal. We don't have specific bed numbers, we just have beds. And our staff is volunteer. Our food is donated. There's no funding for pop-up warming centers, so we use the resources in the community. And that's why pop-up warming centers are important. It brings our community together. It's a lot of work, but it's not hard. It just requires a lot of commitment. And that's getting the people to donate space is really the hardest part of a pop-up warming center, is finding the space to do it in. We prepare for this all the time. If you do outreach, you have the supplies already needed to do this. It just requires mats, blankets, clothing, and a staff that's willing to sit with and address the issues that come along. A lot of de-escalation. People come to pop-up warming centers because they've been outside and haven't been inside a warming center or shelter, so they're in not good condition mentally and physically. So this is why it makes this a little bit challenging. And pop-up warming centers are usually for folks that are the everybody else category, folks that can't meet the barriers at other shelters and are still remaining outside after shelters are full. Well, the security is always the biggest issue for everybody. It is the reason that we have such issues putting shelters in places and that churches have struggled to open their doors. Traditionally, they're in neighborhoods or close to neighborhoods. There's businesses around them that worry about the safety. Not everybody knows the side of homelessness that we know, so it's just fear. What we do and how we run is we do half-hour perimeter checks. So we clean the entire block. We take 2 of our staff to go around the building, picking up trash, bringing people in who are still camping outside, finding resources for the people that are just standing around that aren't willing to come in. It's being good neighbors to the buildings and businesses next to us. This one happens to have a school next to it, which for a low barrier shelter is not the ideal location, simply for the fact that we require no barriers to come in here. We accept anybody in any condition. We don't have requirements or ask questions. So there are people here with criminal histories that may not coincide with being next to a school. This is a low barrier shelter, so we don't check the sexual offender registry. Anybody in any condition can come here. So it is keeping the neighbors safe is the biggest concern in pop-up warming centers anywhere, is how are the neighbors going to react and what can we do to ease the minds of the people surrounding us. For us, fortunately, we've run warming centers and we continue to cover all of our staff. So we cover our staff. We're covering what happens that Jules participates in, and the church is covering their church, the fire, damage, water, the regular stuff that they cover. To be able to get around that, you can make it a church project, and the church could cover on their insurance that as a project. There's a bunch of different ways, but the insurance is a big deal. Volunteers are awesome, and depending on what community connections you have, ours happens to be, we have good community support. So we literally just asked whoever can come down to come down. It's a little bit different in pop-up warming center as opposed to a contract with the city or something that Jules would fund on a regular basis. Because nobody's getting paid, we're able to have volunteers come in from every aspect of their lives. We're not required to do background checks and drug tests and all of the things that normal employment would consist of. We're able to do it with members of our community, church members, people who work in other organizations. We have a gentleman tomorrow that just volunteers for the city. So anything that they need, it's anybody who wants to help. That is one of the beautiful things about a pop-up warming center, is it's giving people a place to give back in a safe environment. People want to help. They do. The communities want to jump on board. They see the plight of the homeless. It's not like most people don't understand. They don't know how to help. It seems so overwhelming when you see the gigantic picture of homelessness. It's overwhelming to us as service providers, just seeing the sheer need and the number of people. And to understand and incorporate the community into that is how we get through this, is giving everybody a chance to participate in whatever way that looks like. If that is donating some socks, or if that's coming in and cleaning, or if that is just coming in and chatting with people, or maybe cooking a meal. Some folks can't deal with the environment. It is organized chaos all the time. And for some people that's a trigger. Some people it's just not what they're used to. And for some people it's not what they're willing to do, but they are willing to help in some capacity. And every community needs all of those people. You need people who have money and people who have time. And we just facilitate both of them being able to come to one place to donate. Some people have money and don't have time. Some people have time and don't have money, but we need both to make this work. That's the easiest part of pop-up warming centers and outreach, is clothing. Everybody has clothing. They just don't know where to take it to. So you've got to give them a place to be able to donate at. Addresses, give them the needs, make them specific, or else you'll get donations of everything. So our needs are always specific. We need men's items, we need women's items, we need men's shoes, we need socks or underwear. We're specific with our donors, and then we just allow the community to come in and bring what they have and what each person has available to them. One of the keys to making warming centers and pop-up warming centers work is relationships. The relationships you build with the people on the street. And these guys and the relationships built with Jules know that we're here to help them. Not only do we have people who come to try to check in, we have people that just stop by knowing that this is full but need a blanket or need food. And we allow anyone to come in and grab a blanket, to grab food, to warm up for a few minutes here and there. We offer them everything that we can because we know they're going to be on the street tonight. And this is what we can do. We can't give them a place, this place is full, but we can provide them a sleeping bag or a blanket, some hot food, some coffee, a place, that's it. And they know that. So not only do we have the 22 people that are trying to check in after they know the 30 beds are full, We have people that just stop by randomly throughout the day and know this is a safe space for them to sit down and rest. So we offer the chairs to them to come in, sit down, eat something, warm up. That makes a world of difference at 2 a.m. when it's freezing cold outside. And that is why this is so important. Not only just the 30 beds here, but the location, able to come to a place close to where they're going to be staying and access the things that they need. Well, a medical team on site or on call is super important for pop-up warming centers for the fact that the people that are coming in here are not in good health, or they wouldn't be still out on the street. When you're staying out on the street and it's 12 degrees outside night after night, your health is going to deteriorate very fast. So are your feet, so are your hands. And on the street, if you lose your feet for a winter, you're done. That's the end of thriving through the winter, because you can't move your things, you can't carry your stuff, and you're being moved constantly. Every time you sit down, you're being asked to move again. So if you can't do that with your feet, you're gonna sit there and either end up in jail or have to have some place to heal for your feet. And if you're moving constantly, there's no place to heal. Your feet are never getting a break. So feet are super important. It's why we stress clean socks and new socks all the time. That is our biggest thing that we go through the mass amounts of, is once your socks are wet, if you have no dryer or washer, what do you do with those socks? You throw them away, and you need new socks at that point. So that is why those things are important. So mattresses, we have the mattresses, they belong to us. We use regular twin size sheets. We cover the mattresses with those. The pop-up warming center works a lot easier than a shelter because they're not changing their bed every night. We only have to change the bed for the people that are leaving and giving the bed to somebody else. So they're going to remain on the same bed. They can remain with the same bedding unless it gets soiled, and in that case then we just take it, replace it, and wash it for the next person. And with the amount of people here, it's 30. So it's not an overwhelming amount of laundry if we were to have to do every single one of these blankets in the washer every day. Having a warming center with working bathrooms is amazing. There's nowhere to use the restroom out on the streets. You cannot, if you are homeless, go into a business and ask to use the restroom. That's not something that happens on a regular basis. There are a few porta potties set up throughout our city, but they're not regularly cleaned. We take pictures of them. We clean them for our homeless friends, but we aren't allowed to dump them. So that we have to rely on the powers that be to dump and take care of those, which usually is not what happens. So those are usually off and unavailable as well to the folks experiencing homelessness. So inside here, there's 2 bathrooms. We have to have somebody monitoring them at all time because we want them to stay in the condition that they're in. But that means a lot to people to not have to bundle back up, go walk 8 blocks to the porta potty, wait out there and hope that they can use the bathroom there. If there were showers, that would be even more amazing, but there's not. We happen to have portable showers, so we're gonna bring those out tomorrow. Food is one of the most important things because that's what people are lacking. So at a warming center, the rules are different. This can be a potluck. It's not open to public, so we can allow people to come in and cook and bring home-cooked food. Everybody that's here knows that this is home-cooked food. We try to add the ingredients that are in the items and talk to people if they have any allergies. But snacks are important. Keeping things on hand for folks to be able to fill their body with will keep them at least inside enough that they're not just wandering all over the city hungry. And the community steps up and donates. That's the awesomeness of it. Is right now we have tonight, Arby's will be supplying the meal for these guys, so they will receive hot roast beef sandwiches tonight. Last night the Davenport Hotel came in and brought their leftover food. They were all sandwiches made. And that is the importance of repurposing food. We throw away and waste more food in this country than we use. And if these folks are willing and needing it, the businesses who step up and donate it are amazing. And we have a Good Samaritan law. So that's what most of businesses and restaurants are worried about. And the Good Samaritan law protects people who donate food. As long as there were reasonable precautions taken to protect that food, they can't be sued for donating it. Policies and procedures are important for every nonprofit to have. Our policy and procedures are written and implemented no matter what project or thing that we're doing. We have policy and procedure that is specific to warming centers. We have policy and procedure that's specific to volunteers, and policy and procedure that's strictly for our staff. And that is how we update those regularly so that they're addressing the needs at the times that we do things, but it's consistency. The barking in the background is dogs. We do allow people to have their pets. We do understand that people experiencing homelessness, their pets are just important as our pets and just as big a part of their family as their boyfriend or husband or children. So we allow, if that's a barrier to keeping people out of a shelter, is a kennel for their dog or the ability for their dog to sleep on their bed, we just try to eliminate those barriers, anything that will keep them from coming inside. That's what's important about low barrier warming centers, is it's people working to reduce the barriers to get everybody inside. That is the goal. Nobody wants people sleeping outside or in doorways or in parks, maybe for different reasons. Business owners don't want people sleeping in front of their door because it's bad for their business. The city doesn't want people sleeping on the sidewalks because it's bad for the city. We don't want people sleeping outside because it's bad for humanity. We all have common ground there. We just need to come together and realize that and implement solutions that work to benefit everybody. And that's how compromise works. So people are packing up this morning. The reality is there's not the 40 beds of people that are in here for them tonight, but there was a few beds at HOC last night, 3 for men. We're gonna take people to Truth who can go. Other than that, everybody is allowed to take the blankets on their bed, and hopefully until something else opens up, it'll keep them warm. Tom here, he went to Stars. We checked him into detox. So that's where he'll be this after today. We're taking Travis and a couple of the gentlemen who can go to Truth are gonna go to Truth. And everybody else is gonna go sit outside the Salvation Army and HOC and hope that tonight they get to get beds. This is the secondary trauma that we're always talking about. This is a rough day for everyone. 6 days is nice. We're very thankful to the church for allowing us 6 days, but 6 days isn't enough. It's supposed to snow this weekend, and we have no place open for these guys to go. We're gonna be in the same situation in 5 days that we were in 6 days ago when it was 12 degrees outside. We're gonna be in that same situation this weekend. And this, at least they had open for that time. We don't have something planned for the weekends to come up. No other church has offered to open their doors. So that's the best we can do. We can only do what we can do, and this is all we can do.
After 6 days in the Fellowship Hall of Westminster Congregational Church, this pop-up warming shelter is coming to an end. By definition, a pop-up warming shelter is temporary. Its purpose isn't to help solve the long-term problems of homelessness, but to provide immediate help and prevent people from freezing on the streets of a city during the winter. The need for this kind of warming center is easily seen both in the number of guests who stayed there and the number of people who wanted beds but had to be turned away. It's a sobering reality that while 35 people spent the night on beds in the warming center every night, a total of 178 people came looking for a bed and a break from the weather, but had to be turned away. As the residents of this warming center step out into the cold and back onto the streets of our community, with few options for where to go, we're left with a simple challenge. What's it going to take for us as a community to bring genuine shalom? that's peace, health, and well-being to those experiencing homelessness in our community. If Shalom expresses the way things ought to be, then certainly people experiencing homelessness and wandering the streets of our city in winter weather with no safe place to go expresses broken Shalom, not the way things ought to be. If the two common denominators of homelessness are a loss of community, such as family, friends, church, and social circles, and a deep personal trauma that's left them wounded and vulnerable, then any plan to address homelessness must include rebuilding their sense of community while helping them deal with their personal trauma, whatever it might be. If we're going to build the Shalom, the peace, health, and well-being of our community, especially for those experiencing homelessness, it's going to take a genuine community effort that goes beyond any official city plans or programs. It means you and I are going to have to roll up our sleeves, open our hearts, and get involved. People experiencing homelessness need our help and our fearless compassion. They can't do it alone. If they could, they wouldn't be in a warming shelter or camping in the snow.